my loves. Today I am going to be doing another story time video. It has been a while since I added on to my babysitting horror story series, and you guys seem to love those videos. Growing up, I wasn't allowed to have a job, a part-time job while I was in high school, so a lot of my work experience pretty much before I turned 18 was babysitting, and I still did a lot of babysitting when I was 18, 19, 20. So honestly, I've been doing it forever. I have a lot of weird stories. Today I'm actually going to be talking about a group of girls that I babysat for all of the time. This family had 3 daughters. They were all super duper sweet, and I would almost say I was nannying for them a lot of the times. Like during the summer, I would watch their kids 5 days a week. And certainly while it was a lot of work to look after 3 girls, I had some downtime. So a lot of that time was spent on my phone, whether it was texting friends or playing games. And I actually really want to talk to you guys about an app game today, because now through December 6th, Yahtzee with Buddies is actually doing something amazing to support RED, which, if you are not already aware, is a foundation that supports people with HIV and AIDS. There are currently over 37 million people in the world living with HIV, and over half of those people do not have medication that not only keeps them alive, but that also keeps HIV positive mothers from giving birth to HIV positive babies. So I'm really excited to say that Yahtzee with Buddies, Apple, and RED have teamed up together this holiday season in order to give back to those people and to contribute towards an AIDS-free generation, which is something that's very possible, and it's something that we can all work towards. And you can help achieve it actually by now through December 6th, purchasing the $4.99 pack RED. 100% of the proceeds of that pack, so the pack RED, are going to go directly to the RED. And I think this is really amazing that Yahtzee with Buddies is doing this, but I think it's even more amazing that anyone out there can literally go and download the app and buy the pack RED for $4.99, and 100% of that proceed goes to the RED Foundation. That not only helps people living with HIV and AIDS better their lives, continue to live, but also works towards an AIDS-free generation. And so 100% of your proceeds will be going to the Global Fund to fight HIV and AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa this year. You can of course join me in this by downloading Yahtzee with Buddies down below. It is available on the App Store, and the game itself is really awesome. I've always loved Yahtzee, and I think it's really cool that they brought it to this mobile platform. You can play with your Facebook friends, you can play with strangers, you can add people by username, so if one of your friends joins, they can give you their username. You can find new buddies through the app. I was linked up with someone in 0.2 seconds, and it's just such a fun game. I really like it. I probably need to take my turn so this person doesn't have to wait on me. So if you're babysitting like I did all of those years and you have any downtime, I hope Yahtzee with Buddies is the game that you're playing, because I would have loved to play that one. And I even would have loved to play it with the girls now that I'm looking back on it. That would have been really fun. But I wanted to tell a couple of stories from my time when I was nannying them. Listen, I know you see the title. I know you're like, Loey, another haunted house. But I swear to you guys, I just feel like I run into these situations where things are just weird, and they're weird all the time, but of course I wound up babysitting in a haunted house, or at least one that I believe was haunted. So I want to tell you guys some stories and things that I experienced there. It was a really old farmhouse that had been renovated, and oh my god, I don't even know how many years old it was, but it was one of those houses that you walked into it and you could feel the age, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like a newly built house, and even though it had been renovated and it was so beautiful, don't get me wrong, it just felt like an old house. It felt like it had a lot of history and a lot of energy in it, if that makes any sense. And as old houses do, you would just hear noises all of the time. And when I nannied for these girls, sometimes I stayed the night depending on the situation. A lot of the times I would watch them through the week, and it was because obviously their parents were at work, but I spent the night more times than I could count, just because there was no even point in going home sometimes to leave at 11 p.m. and come back at 6. And I would always hear the house settling. I hate when grown-ups always told me that the house was just settling when I was younger, and I would hear creaks and noises and stuff. I feel like that's just an excuse to, blow off the fact that you heard something spooky. I would always hear someone walking upstairs when it would be me and and the girls, and all 4 of us would be downstairs. They were pretty young. I think one was like 3, one would have been 5 or 6, a little bit older, but not much. And then the third one was in like her preteens. I would say she was either 12 or 13 around this time. And we would all be downstairs, and I would hear the floorboards upstairs creak. And like I said, it was an old house. I would always blame it on other things, but it was just really weird. It would always sound like someone was walking across the floor upstairs, and there never was anyone up there. A lot of the times I would hear people talking and no one else would be there. You know what I mean? Like, me and the girls would be downstairs coloring or something, and I would hear someone talking from the living room, you know, 3 rooms over, and there was no one there. There was no TV on, you know what I mean? So I was always just a little bit sketched out in that house, but I feel like I wanted to tell you guys 3 particularly strange stories from that house, and if you want to hear more, I can totally do more. I watched these girls for so long. We had so many experiences together that I would love to talk about. I loved watching them. We had so much fun, and I really miss them. I wish I could go back. We definitely had some interesting times together. One in particular was actually right around the Christmas season, because we were actually decorating the house for their parents, and their parents, bless them, worked so hard and so much, and they were never home, and we thought we would surprise them and hang up some decorations. And the oldest girl knew pretty much where everything in the house would normally go. You know, I thought it would be a really cute thing, and it wound up being a cute thing. We did go through with decorating the house. The parents totally loved it, which I was glad about, but we had decided to go up to the attic and like get some decorations and just start putting them all over the house. It's hard to say what phone I had at this point in time. It may have been the iPhone 3GS, which would have been my first smartphone ever. I lost it while we were decorating, and it was no big deal. You know, now of course, every time I lose my phone, it's on, you know, silent and do not disturb, so I can never hear it when it calls. But at the time, I was not so concerned with saving my battery life like crazy. So I wound up calling it from their house phone, and it rang an appropriate amount of times, and I never heard it ringing anywhere. And it wound up going to voicemail, and I called again, and I was walking around the house trying to find it, and I could not find my phone. I was retracing my steps absolutely everywhere, from my room that I always slept in the house, to the girls' room, to the kitchen, to the yard. Like, I feel like I went everywhere, and of course we had decorated, so I was searching everywhere in this house, and I could not find my cell phone. And I probably spent like a good 2 or 3 hours without my phone, and I was getting kind of nervous because obviously I'm watching these girls. Their parents could always call the house phone if something was really wrong, but I didn't want to not have my cell phone. And I was calling it and calling it and calling it, and I was upstairs when I called it this one last time, and I heard it ringing. And it was really one of the creepiest things, you guys, because I was walking through the hallway trying to listen for it ringing, and I heard it ringing from above me. And I was like, how is that even possible? How is it ringing from above me? And I'm thinking, I didn't go on the roof. How would it get on the roof? And then I remembered, oh wait, we went to the attic. The weird thing about this is that I had been listening to music on my phone pretty much the entire time we were decorating. I had my headphones, I had the phone, and I was listening with like one earbud in while I was watching the girls, you know, do what they were doing, just so they were not going crazy. But I remember listening to music, and I had a Zune back then, like a Zune. Do you guys remember those when it was, I guess it would have been Microsoft's response to the iPod? I had one, but I could have sworn that it was my phone that I was listening to the music off of, because I was kind of transitioning away from my Zune. It was a lot more convenient that I could get music whenever I wanted, you know, on my cell phone. And so it had been a while since I listened to my Zune, and even though, you know, it was in my bag, I really thought it was my phone. And so my phone is ringing from above me, and I put down the ladder, I go upstairs, and sure enough, my phone is there, like right next to where all of the Christmas decorations were. And I grabbed it and I took it downstairs, and I just, to this day, like, I'm the kind of person who, I do ditzy stuff all of the time. I'm constantly a mess, constantly unorganized. But I just thought it was so weird that it was in the attic, because I could have sworn I had it. Even though we had like just decorated for Christmas, I feel like this may have happened shortly before the cell phone going missing. There was always a nutcracker by the front door of the house. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, like it was always by the front door. And I think it was like sentimental for the family. It was huge. It came up to my hip. But yeah, it was this nutcracker. It was always out. And it had never really creeped me out, at least not consciously, until I had one of the scariest dreams on planet Earth about it. And it was one of those nights that I was spending the night at the house. I always had a hard time falling asleep in the house. And I think that it's just because it had always sort of creeped me out, the house in general had. It sounds so cliche, but like I would always feel like someone was watching me everywhere that I went there. So I had a hard time falling asleep all of the time. So it doesn't surprise me that I had a nightmare. It's just weird how realistic it was. And I guess I feel like if I were to have a nightmare, 99% of the time, it's about like a monster chasing me, you know what I mean? Not about a nutcracker figure. So I had a dream that I was walking through the house, and I never had like a clear dream of waking up or anything like that. The dream just started out with me walking through the house, except that everything was blue, like Smurf blue. It was weird. And I'm walking through the house and everything just feels eerie and off to me, and I'm kind of scared and my heart is racing and I feel like I should be like running. And I'm telling myself in the dream, why do you feel like that? Like nothing's wrong. There's no one else here. I was walking through an empty house, except that it was blue. And for some reason, it being blue in the dream didn't freak me out. I only even thought about it being blue when I woke up. I feel like someone is watching me. And so I turn around and it's the nutcracker. And it's not like come to life or anything weird like that. It's just like the still nutcracker figure. Like I said, it was pretty tall, like up to my hip, and it was behind me. So I was like, that's so weird. So I kept walking and I heard something behind me and I turned around and the nutcracker figure was still behind me. And I went around a corner and it was still behind me. Like every time I would turn around, it would be behind me. And the dream is inconclusive. I pretty much woke up after that and nothing like weird happened. I don't know. I feel like that was a really strange, bizarre dream. Why was the house blue? Why was it the nutcracker? I don't know. I could never look at it the same after that. And I was always convinced when I was walking through the house that I was gonna turn around and see it there. And I don't like nutcrackers now at all. I would never have them in my home. Really, really strange. But neither of those are definitively like paranormal, like the house is super haunted. You know, I heard things creaking. I felt like I would hear people. Things obviously would go missing. But this next story really creeps me out. So one of the girls, the 5/6-year-old, we're gonna call her Michaela. And Michaela always had imaginary friends. This was not a new thing for her. Anytime that we went anywhere, I often buckled in an imaginary friend. I mean, they changed all of the time. There was no keeping track of them. Sometimes they were like cartoons that she had watched, so it would be like Scooby-Doo would be her imaginary friend that week. And sometimes they were completely made up, like, you know, there was no rhyme or reason to them. But she always had different imaginary friends, and she was about the age where obviously that's perfectly normal. So she's having a tea party with one of her imaginary friends, and I go in her room to check on her. And you know, I love hearing like what she has to say. I think kids' imaginations are so cool. It was all really fun for me. I loved being a nanny. I loved babysitting. Kids are so cool. They're way cooler than adults, obviously. So I come to like join her and see who the like imaginary friend of the week is. And keep in mind, before I go into this, their parents were hyper religious. The kids were able to watch like cartoons and stuff, but it was limited. It was like Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo. They weren't allowed to even watch like Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is a scarier one. They weren't allowed to watch scary movies. They weren't even allowed to watch Harry Potter. So when I tell you that how dark this got was really out of character for this girl, it was just really, really strange. And basically I sat down, I asked her, you know, what are you guys doing? Who's here with your tea party today? And she said a name like Sarah or I don't know, Anne or something very generic, but something I'm not familiar with. Like not a cartoon that she watched on the regular. And I said, oh, who's that? Michaela told me she was a new friend. They met when she was playing outside and now they're obviously having a tea party. And I asked her, can I join you? Because most of the time she would be happy for me to join and, you know, she would talk to me, talk to the imaginary friend, talk to her stuffed animals, pour us all air tea, you know, it was great. So I was really surprised when she told me no, that I couldn't join the tea party. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, maybe she's getting older, maybe she doesn't want me intruding on her plans. I get you, girl. So I said, oh, that's okay. So I stood up to walk away, and Michaela grabbed my arm, and she kind of like looked over to where obviously Sarah, and we're just gonna call her imaginary friend Sarah. So she looks over to where her imaginary friend Sarah is supposed to be sitting, and she looks back at me and she says, I want you to stay, but Sarah says no. And I was like, that's so weird. Why not? Why can't I stay and have tea with you guys? And Michaela said, oh, well, we're making plans for later. You know, we're gonna go outside and play. And then this child tells me, I want to play in the yard, but Sarah wants to play in the well. Her imaginary friend wanted her to go and play in a well outside. I was so creeped out, you guys. So it just seemed really strange. There was a well outside. It was just really, really, really weird because none of the girls had ever even remotely expressed an interest in the well before. Like, it looked old. It didn't look like a fun place to go, you know what I mean? And so it was really weird to hear her say, Sarah wants to play in the well, but I'm like, no, I don't want to. And so I told Michaela, like, that's not safe. You and Sarah cannot play in the well. Like, do you understand me? You cannot go near the well. Do not do it. Like, her imaginary friend wanted her to go play in the well. Casual. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the story time. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want more babysitting horror story times, especially ones from this house, because I have a couple more, definitely let me know. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.